All right, we are here today with Jack. He is lead author support for BookFunnel.
Yep.
I thought I'd start out with a little bit just to let people know who you are, which I don't have a lot of that information, so I'm going to
Sure.
let you answer that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and what your position is there.
Right. So, yep. Jack, I am our lead office support specialist at BookFunnel. So, what that basically means, that title is, I manage our author support team. So we have some other team members. They do the bulk of the email responses, but I used to be the guy, the only guy in author support, and then that's when you get really good at something, they hire more people to put you in charge of. So that's kind
Yes.
of how that worked. But I also am the host of BookFunnel Live, which is our monthly webinar series, and the BookFunnel podcast with my co-hosts Emma and Kelly. And so that's kind of my position there. But basically, like if we were talking about using BookFunnel in author support, we're helping authors do just that. So an author has difficulty with some aspect of BookFunnel, or they have questions on how to use one part of BookFunnel, something to that extent. And I or one of the other team members are there to help them out with that.
Gotcha. So
Basically.
if you are an aspiring author and maybe you've stumbled across this by accident, sorry guys, what does BookFunnel do for authors?
Sure. So we're like a suite of tools that authors can use to deliver their books direct to readers in a number of different ways. So a lot of authors use us to deliver their reader magnets. That's what we're probably most known for. It's with our landing page features to deliver reader magnets, let the reader join your mailing list, and then they can get that book for free. Helps you build an audience, build a list off of that free offer. But we also have delivery features for things like ARCs and review copies that let you kind of manage that, have a little bit of automation built into it as well. We have some cross promotional features so that you can find other authors to cross promote with and grow your mailing list with those landing pages that you can make. And a number of other things like direct sales through your website. So you could, for example, sell your books through Shopify, and BookFunnel can deliver those on the back end of those sales, your ebooks and audiobooks. So that's just like a few things that we
Right.
do. There's quite a few more, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't remember who my gateway drug was. Might have been Michael Michelle, but I think it's
Mm,
one of those ones where I had an indie author that I was following. And then, of course, like the author swaps and stuff you talk about is like they mention another book. So then, of course, I got to check out that book and then check out that book and then check out that book. And then next thing I know, I'm following like 20 authors that I
yeah,
never would have heard of.
yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
perfect. Um, what this is one of the questions I always love to ask people in your position. What as a product support type person or an author support type person, what do you wish authors knew maybe
Mm.
before they reached out or started looking at you guys?
Yeah, yeah. So some of the things that we run across, just because not to brag, but BookFunnel is pretty ubiquitous in the indie publishing, self-publishing industry. Most people know who we are, even if they haven't used us before. But people who are new to the industry, like they're just deciding to get into self-publishing, right? They'll hear the name BookFunnel, and somebody will tell them like, "Oh yeah, I use BookFunnel to grow my mailing list. You need to go sign up for BookFunnel." And their friend might not necessarily explain to them like how you do that with BookFunnel. And so they sometimes come to the table assuming like, okay, I'm going to sign up for BookFunnel, and you guys are going to give me readers. Like it's going to be kind of like almost like it's handed to you, and BookFunnel gives you the tools to do these things, but the I guess the effort, the work is done by you. So you can create landing pages with BookFunnel, but you have to find a way to drive traffic to those. Right. You can use us to deliver your ARCs to your ARC team, but you've got to find those readers. You can use BookFunnel to do that with our cross promotional features, with group promos, and grow a mailing list, and then recruit, say, like ARC readers or reviewers from that mailing list of readers. So you can still get there, but some folks come to us expecting us to be like, oh, I'm just going to upload my book to BookFunnel and you're going to do that thing for me and it's handled completely. We're not a concierge service. It's more of a toolkit that you can kind of use that fits into your business how you need it.
Gotcha. First, I got to shout out Kai real quick. Debut author. I know that her and her husband have both used your system as well there. So checking
Awesome.
that out. And then I did want to share something real quick. Let me see if I can pull this up without screwing anything up, because I have done that before. Come on, which one of this is? Oh, I've got too many tabs open. Okay, becoming as bad as my wife. Is that letting me? I don't think it's liking that. Let's just do it this way then instead. I'm going to share this, shove us off to the side for a second. First of all, internet, don't come at me if you're watching this 5 years from now and the price has changed. But I
Well,
mean, $2.50 a month for this
yeah,
starting thing. You guys, I think that's way more than reasonable. They're not paying me to say this. I reached out to them. But yeah, I was really expecting when I started clicking on the pricing stuff that it was going to be more expensive than
right.
this.
I got to tell you, it's funny you mentioned that because we recently just changed our pricing. So 5 years from now, it probably will be the same. We've been around for just over 10 years, and our pricing was the same that entire time. It took that long before we had to kind of make a little bit of a bump here, but it wasn't by a whole lot. And we've had people telling us for years, like, yeah, why are you charge you could charge so much more, but um, while we understand that, like, the service is a great value for authors, and we have the different plans that we have because authors are at different stages in their careers. And so, like, our first time author plan, yeah, it's $30 for a year. It's basic. It's got like the bare bones features that you would need to use. But you can do a lot with it. You really
Yeah.
can. You can do a ton with just that first time author plan. And then if you want some of the other features, then you can upgrade. It's like, depending on where you are at in your career. So we wanted it to be flexible and not, shut anybody out of having access to those tools.
No, I get that. And I think it's a great model, especially for at least for the basic one, where if you're looking to see if this is something you want and you go in there, it's like $30 for the entire year.
Yeah,
I can deal with that, even if it doesn't work for me.
right.
I'm out $30.
Yeah, well, and within 30, and I'll say this, I'm not trying to be the
No,
salesman or pitch anybody here, but we also have a 30-day money back guarantee. So even if you try that $30 plan and you're like, you know what, it's not for me, you just let us know, you can get your $30 back within 30 days. So
no.
that's how confident we are that, in the service and in the tools.
Well, I knew I was going to have you on, so I didn't look up too much stuff. Uh, what? What was I completely lost the thing I was going to ask you now. So what are some? Let me do this then, since I've got you on here, and you
Uh-huh.
used to be the front lines. Now you're
Yeah.
the boss of the front lines. What are some of the questions you get asked on a regular basis? Maybe like an FAQ type thing.
Oh, yeah. Geez. There's a number of them that kind of come across on a daily or weekly sort of basis. Some of those, like I mentioned, about, like, okay, like, I sign up for BookFunnel. When will my readers magically show up? Right. But a lot of the questions we do get are around, like, Kindle Unlimited. A lot of authors are using Kindle Unlimited and are like, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to sign up for BookFunnel. Is that, like, okay? Because, Jeff has scared them into compliance. But which I should, to answer the question, yes, you can. Many authors who are in KU do use BookFunnel. You can. There's some of the features that you would want to use in a certain way. Obviously, like, if any of your books are enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, you don't want to be delivering those books through BookFunnel, right? Just like you wouldn't want to be putting those books anywhere outside of the Amazon ecosystem, the ebooks, I should say.
Right.
So that's a very common one. And then things just like, yeah, like, okay, how do I grow a mailing list from scratch? And with BookFunnel, that's our cross promotional features, our group promos primarily. And it's basically an opportunity for authors in the same genre, or even sometimes like a subgenre or niche, because different genres have a different population of authors. So like if you go to the promos board on BookFunnel, say if you're a romance author, there's like 1,000 promos that are live at any given time on BookFunnel. So like in romance, there's tons of different minutia. You can find like, this subgenre with this niche sometimes. In other ones, it's a little bit more broad. I'm a science fiction author myself, and so I host promos on our dashboard in science fiction and fantasy, and there's generally a good overlap there in terms of readership. But basically, you get a whole bunch of authors to throw in a free book, right? So this would be like a reader magnet. This would be sometimes a sample or an excerpt, whatever the author wants to put in there. And typically for a newsletter sign up, all these books go onto a nice little bundle page. You can see all the books on there. Readers can browse that. And then each author that's in that promo has to share the link to that bundle with their audience, typically their newsletter. And so that means that's where the traffic is coming from, essentially. And the understanding in these is that some people are going to have different size lists. Some authors are going to have larger lists. Some authors are going to be just starting out, maybe only have a few hundred readers on their list. Some authors are going to have literally zero. And that's just kind of culturally at BookFunnel, we've just made that the expectation. And so that's not usually a problem. Most authors who are organizing these promos are totally fine with authors coming in that have like zero subscribers on their mailing list. And then you can grow a list from scratch that way. So those are the type of questions we get. Like, how do you grow a list? How do I do this? How do I do X, Y, or Z with BookFunnel is pretty typical. And then again, questions about Kindle Unlimited, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Now, the entire time we've conversed via email, I've only known you as Jack.
Yeah.
And I thought I recognized that last name when it popped up on here. And I finally realized when you said you're an author, I haven't read it yet, but I'm 90% sure I have Bad Bishop on my Kindle somewhere.
Probably. Yep.
I know I knew that name from somewhere.
Yep. That would be me.
All right. And then Kai had a quick question here somebody might have.
Okay. Gotcha. So watermarking, it looks like, in audiobooks. So for when it comes to watermarking, so BookFunnel does watermark EPUB files.
Mm.
And we add a watermark in a couple different ways. It's a hidden watermark, first of all, so it's not like the reader can't see it. It's not it's not interfering with the reading experience. That would be wild. If we did something like that, that'd be kind of ridiculous. We do have some things where you can add like a visible like watermark. It just gets added to the end of a section of the EPUB and says like this was made for this email, and it adds the reader's email there. Currently, we don't watermark audio book files, so we don't add any sort of watermark to MP3 files. I'm not saying that we won't necessarily in the future. How that would look like would kind of depend. It might be another hidden watermark sort of thing that we could do. I don't know. However, what we do have in terms of security features for audiobooks is the ability to restrict it to our delivery ecosystem. So we have the BookFunnel app, which is a reading app, a very fine reading app in our opinion, that Damon, our CEO, designed himself. And then we also have the Cloud Reader, which is essentially the same software, but it's in a browser. And so between those two, on pretty much any device, you can read ebooks, you can listen to audiobooks, and even stream them, even listen to them offline. And so the security we use essentially for audiobooks is the ability to restrict it there, so that those would be the only places that somebody could listen to it. They wouldn't be able to download the files and then do whatever they want with them, presumably. But that's up to the author, whether or not they want to do that. So whether or not they want to have those files accessible for readers to download, or whether or not they want to basically shut that off and make it so they have to use BookFunnel to listen to the audiobook.
Yeah. Apparently Kai does like the reading app.
Good
I haven't
deal.
tried it. I just I've got a few books from you guys, or that I've downloaded from you guys, and I just kind of shoot them straight to my Kindle.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
and
because
that's fine
I've got
too.
old eyes and I like to bring it up on my Kindle. I don't even use my Kindle. I bring the Kindle app on my big monitor, and then I can actually see these words.
Yeah,
Uh, one question I have: there's obviously a huge section of the population now that is really, really getting into audiobooks.
yeah.
What difficulties does somebody have with audiobooks on your maybe not, but not like difficulty compared to other ones, but just difficulties in general? Audiobooks I feel are like a complete different beast.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked this question because the reader support is another side of our team. So there's the author support team, and the reader support team is they don't usually have as much of a public facing role. Our customers are authors, so the author support team, like we have webinars and podcasts, and so you see our faces all over the place. The reader support team is there to help the readers, and so they're not as public facing, but they're equal in terms of personnel. And in fact, we're hiring another person in reader support here in the near future. So reader support actually is larger, right? There's the majority of support requests that come through every day at BookFunnel are readers needing help getting their books. And the percentage of readers that need help with an audiobook is very small. It is, and usually these issues, sometimes it's issues with like using it in their car. There were some app updates we had to make, right? For like CarPlay and Android Auto, that sort of thing. There was a period of time where some of those things came up every now and then. But realistically, like unless they're in, unless it's a case where like the author, there's some kind of mistake in the audio file. Like we've had times where the narrator left in something that was supposed to get cut out, and they'll come to us and tell us that. Or for the most part, most of those requests that we get are ebook related issues. So audiobooks are actually fairly easy. One thing we do get sometimes is people asking, like, I want to send this audiobook to Audible. Audible doesn't let you do that. And
Right.
so, depending on what app you're using, sometimes you can or cannot sideload an audiobook. Most readers will just listen in the BookFunnel app or Cloud Reader most of the time anyway, or might download their files to their device and then use their native, like, you know, app for their music app on their phone or what have you. So,
Gotcha. I just know it's bigger, and I also or becoming bigger, and I also know that
yeah,
MP3s obviously have to take up a lot more space on your servers and stuff than the other.
they do. They take up more space than an EPUB. EPUBs are tiny,
Yeah,
but oddly enough, like MP3 files are they're designed very well. They work. They don't have a lot of hiccups to them. You can send an MP3 file here and there. People are also kind of used to that.
yeah,
Whereas EPUB files, like the process of side loading to Kindle, which has changed a little bit over the years, is it's not the most intuitive process for some reason. For some reason, the way this has been kind of set up, and BookFunnel works around that. That's just what we have to do. The way that Amazon requires you to send an EPUB to Kindle is just the way that Amazon requires you to do it. You got to
yeah.
jump through those hoops. So unfortunately, it's nothing that BookFunnel can really mitigate. We can't do much about it in terms of what Amazon, wants us to do or wants readers to do rather when they're sending to Kindle. But that's where people run into the most trouble because that process is actually much more. There's more steps along the way. There's more steps you can get caught up in and run into trouble, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Oh my, yeah, the publishing industry, and now I won't even say publishing, just apps in general. Because I like remember for those of us of a certain age, you know, back when iPod and iTunes became the big rage for that is that we use a special format, so you can play MP3s on our devices, but you can't play the iTunes files on any other device. You've got to have the pot or the
Yeah.
iPod. iPods for those young people. iPhones used to be smaller. No, just kidding. Anyhow,
The
but yeah, it's
proto iPhone, so to
yeah.
speak. Yeah.
I swear that's probably the biggest headache, and I understand a lot of times why people do it. But the biggest headache I think for anybody in today's day and age when it comes to this type of stuff is compatibility and who can use what where.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm still kind of
Yeah.
annoyed the send to Kindle app quit working on my PC.
Yeah,
I've
they
got to go
now
through the web browser now.
right. What they want, that's what they want you to do now. Thankfully, to Amazon's credit, they did away with the Mobi format,
Yes.
and that was a good thing. And so
Yeah.
they switched to EPUB and for everything across the board, and that was about time. Mobi was just a terrible file format. Uh, and so, and that caused other issues at the time that made things even more complicated. Now, the switch to EPUB has actually made that much more streamlined for authors and for readers.
Yeah. I'm very happy that iPhone finally went USB-C and I don't have to keep a special cable
Yeah,
just for my phone.
yeah, no,
So
yeah. When I upgraded, it was the same. At first, it was like, oh man, now I've got to go get, because I've had an iPhone for ages. Now I've got to go get a USB-C. Well, I mean, it came with one, but I've got to get more
right.
cables. But then after a while, it's like, oh no, this is fine because everything uses it, and it's, yeah. I'm glad they did it. Likewise with Amazon switching to EPUB, it's the same sort of thing.
So this might be a me curiosity question. I don't even know if writers would ask you this, but like when you talk about I've mentioned, like you mentioned in the emails and the mailing lists for like, that's not the word I'm looking for, but in the emails that get sent out from you guys and where you can
Yeah.
like mention other authors, or sometimes they'll have like Friday science fiction sale and it'll have just a list of ones going in there.
Yep.
Do authors have any control over what lists they show up in or who might show up on their quote unquote newsletter?
Yeah. In fact, they have, so they don't have control over the other books that are in there. But basically an author, how it works is an author will post a promo on the BookFunnel dashboard. And so they are the promo organizer. They're the one organizing it.
Yeah.
And so they can choose the title, and they get to choose what the banner image at the top of the page is, and what the requirements are for the authors participating. And in some cases, they can even accept or reject books. So the organizer could say, romance is acceptable in this promo, or romance is not acceptable, like if it's not a non-romance genre, that sort of thing. And so the organizer gets to kind of curate it.
Okay.
But then once that author shares it, yeah, whatever books are in there, and that's pretty much it. But that author has added their book to that promo intentionally, and has had to go out of the way to do that. So, good
I don't
question.
think I realized that the authors were creating the promos. I just had this feeling like my book's available, and then you guys all in the background have something that goes, okay, we're going to take all these fantasy books and we're going to pop them into here or whatever. But
yeah, well,
somebody's got to create that promo, is what you're saying.
Yes, essentially, it's on the authors to do that. The authors are the ones that organize it. It's not all authors want to use BookFunnel for that purpose, and so some authors may primarily use BookFunnel for something else, and deliver their books through Shopify, for example. And so they upload a bunch of their books to Shopify. They don't necessarily want, or upload them to BookFunnel rather, and they don't necessarily want those books just being given away or promoted to readers. Obviously, there's things we could do with, and we've looked into things like what you described, where they could like give permission for a book to be used here or there. But for the most part, no, it's not public. If you upload it to BookFunnel, it's not public until you do something with it, until you make it public, essentially. Yeah.
Just wasn't sure if like, and I'm not going to give any specific names because I don't want to start a fight about anything, but like if so and so, I don't want my book to show up next to author X, whoever that might be.
Right. For the most part, like as an author myself, so I organize promos on the dashboard, on the BookFunnel dashboard, and I join them as well. So I'll join ones that other authors have posted. And if I will go in ahead of time and kind of, because I'm able to preview and look and see what books are in there. Some of the science fiction and fantasy promos do allow romance. Those are the promos that I avoid because that's just not my audience. So mainly what I'm going in there and looking for is like, okay, am I seeing a cover that has like a man chest on it, right? That sort of thing. That's usually an indicator that this is not a good fit for me.
Is anybody wearing a kilt?
Right. That's usually a sign. But beyond that, I'm not too, don't see a whole lot. Some folks are picky on other things too. And obviously authors are well within like their rights to kind of determine like, I want, they can preview the promo and decide whether or not it's a good fit for them. Usually the books are randomized as well. I should mention that. So as they appear on the page, they're kind of just in a random order for the most
Nice.
part. Not always. Sometimes they're in a specific order, but usually they're randomized. So the author's not really getting to pick like which book their book is next to,
Right.
that sort of thing. So,
But no, I like that though, because it's basically everybody's got the same chance to be at the top of that
yeah,
list instead of like, oh, for an extra so many dollars, we'll put you on row one, or you guys
right.
aren't doing that to people. So.
Some BookFunnel doesn't do that. I should
Right.
say BookFunnel doesn't do that. However, some organizers will do things like that,
Oh, okay.
and it's in a legitimate way, which is that we do allow authors to charge for promos
Oh, okay.
in certain contexts, but typically it is with the intention that that author is either going to be bringing the traffic, the organizer is going to be bringing the traffic
Right.
themselves, so they're either responsible for all of the traffic, or they are going to be taking whatever everybody pitches in a little bit here and there. Maybe somebody pitches in to have their book stay at the top of the promo or be featured, and they're going to take that money into a pool and use that to run like a Facebook ad for the
Right.
month or something like that. So it can be legitimate in that sense. And I know in my promos that I organize, I actually don't randomize the books because what happens is an author will come across my promo and they will join with usually 2 or 3 books. And when they're randomized, they all get mixed up. But when they're not randomized, they're in the order they were submitted in.
Oh, okay.
And so all of that author's books will be right next to each other.
Which
So
would
if
make
somebody,
sense.
which is it's there's a trade-off there, obviously the randomization, that sort of thing. But what I've actually noticed, because I tested this one time, I put my books at the bottom. And I tracked the stats to see like what's the difference between being at the top and being at the bottom. And being at the bottom is almost just as good as being at the top, which sounds counterintuitive. But what happens is people are scrolling and they're looking for a cover that's going to catch their interest. And then they get to the bottom and they can't scroll any further. And they wind up staring at your book cover a little bit longer. And so because your book is there at the bottom, it's actually one of the better spots to be in.
Well, I think I've
Believe it or
heard that a
not.
lot though. Sometimes it's like it's better to be the last person people see.
Yeah.
Whether it's on a debate stage or whatever, sometimes being able to have the last word.
Yes. Same kind of
You got
thing.
to the bottom, you didn't find anything you like, pick mine. No, just kidding.
Right.
Oh man. But yeah, I do see though. I think that would be kind of annoying if I was going through a list and it's like Jack's books, and then like 3 rows down, it's like, oh, there's another one of Jack's books. It's like,
Yeah.
especially if it's
Right.
a series, and I was like, okay, which one's book 1?
Right. Exactly.
I do promise I will get to Bad Bishop at some point. I think
Oh
I
yeah.
got it. I think I got it just a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize you, Jack. Is it Shilkaitis?
Shilkaitis.
Shilkaitis.
You're
Okay.
close. Yeah.
I was checking, but I didn't realize that was the same Jack I was talking to at
Right.
BookFunnel.
Right.
Cool.
So yeah, there's Bad Bishop is book 1 in that series. There is a prequel novella that I recommend folks pick up, and I can send you a link to that. That was free, but
I'm not OCD about much, but I like to read books in publication order. I
okay.
usually figure prequels are written prequel. Well, kind of like you don't. Some people do, but you don't want to watch Star Wars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Right.
Or the surprise in 5 is not a surprise anymore.
Right.
Like, we already knew that. We've known that for 5 movies now.
Right. No, yeah. When I wrote the and we're veering a little bit off of BookFunnel here, but it's relevant as I am also an author. When I wrote the prequel for that one, the prequel is called First Board, and it was written later. However, it doesn't really spoil anything. It gives you just a little bit of extra backstory. Interestingly, though, in one of my other series, this is a newer series of mine, I actually wrote that prequel first. It was the very first thing I wrote. And to the point where it's almost mandatory that you read that one first. Like it is the entry point. If you don't read that one first, you might be a tad bit confused, but most people would figure it out.
My wife would say I'm a tad bit confused all the time right now. So. Hey, we got another booktuber popping in who I also think is planning on reading or writing a book of his own, if I remember correctly. So, Josh, how you doing? We do see you in there, so he might find some interesting information here at some point after he's done writing the book. I've noticed on most of his interviews, he's got a notebook. He's taking notes on everything. So
Yeah, now, writing the book can be that's the tricky part. That's the tricky part, especially for folks who are like juggling. If you're juggling a career, you're juggling a family life. I know for myself, it is like I work in the self-publishing industry, so you'd think like, oh, you probably, you're making tons of money from your self-publishing as well. Like it's kind of a cobbler's children have no shoes situation, right? Like I have plenty of books written, but like my day job devoted to that. I've got young kids, so that takes up a lot of my time too. But it is what it is. I release what I've started to do now is I release a lot of what I'm writing now on Patreon directly.
Okay. Yep.
So that it's like it's out there. And because sometimes if I'm working on a book, it used to be I'd keep that to myself, and then it'd be complete, and then I'd have to go and revise it and do all the work with it before I would put it out into the world. And I'm just putting first draft chapters on Patreon, and it's for that creative process, because I only have a limited amount of time. It kind of closes that feedback loop of like completing something for me a little bit faster. It keeps me motivated. So
fair enough. And I don't think you're alone. I see a lot of authors now putting stuff on Patreon or Substack or whichever one has the paywall usually these days. But
yeah.
Like, hey, if you're going to pay to follow me on this, I'm going to give you a little something extra. Here you go.
Well, and mine's actually free.
Supporting you're just making everything easy, man. You're just giving it away.
I know, yeah. Well, so I figured that out from Royal Road. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Royal Road. It's big in like lit RPG circles.
No, I've only read one lit RPG so far, and I know it probably should have been Matt Dinniman, but it wasn't.
So. Well, yeah, no, you're forgiven. But I have not yet read Dungeon Crawler. I know it's in my future. I think the audiobook, because that narrator is
I've heard great things about that one.
But no, it's basically a web novelization. And so you post chapters on Royal Road for free. And then a lot of folks, what those authors will do is they'll then, like, if you want to continue reading, you can get like a month ahead of what gets posted on Royal Road by subscribing to their Patreon. So at one point I might give that a go, but that's kind of where I learned about the business model. And I do kind of work in some BookFunnel stuff in there too, so folks can still like get the actual EPUB when it's complete, or I'm working on some audio for that sort of thing. So I dip my toes into a lot of different things that authors are doing, because they're going to come to BookFunnel at some point,
right?
And be like, how do I do this thing, or how can BookFunnel help me with this? Like in-person events is another thing a lot of authors are doing. You might think, well, BookFunnel's ebooks and audiobooks and in-person events, you're selling like paperbacks and hardbacks and whatnot, but we have some features to allow you to deliver ebooks and audiobooks in person, to sign ebooks as well for like virtual events, things like that. So I've been dipping my toe. I've been going to my local mall once a month. They have a small business event, and I just set up a booth, and these people walk by and randomly see this sci-fi author, and some of them just like keep looking that way, and then they don't look at me at all. They give me the side eye. And then there's some people who do the double take. They're like, "What? That's a book, and what is this? Are you the author?" I'm like, "Yes, I am the author. My face is right there on that sign." And so I try a lot of different things, because I know at some point authors are going to try to use BookFunnel in different ways. And so the same thing with Royal Road, Patreon, trying those things, trying these in-person events, so we can kind of be on the cutting edge a little bit.
I have a question, but I don't want to lose place, because I think mine might be a little bit longer of an answer.
Oh, ebook signing. No, that's all right. So ebook signing, This is one of our newest features. We released it back in November. If I was prepared ahead of time, I would have had a demo here. I've got my iPad here. I could have had that ready to go. It performs best on a tablet with some kind of like
Stylus.
Apple Pencil or stylus.
Gotcha.
But basically, yeah, you can sign an ebook just like you would sign a physical book. It is customized for that individual reader. So you're actually taking your pen and you are actually writing in the book. And you can do some other things to customize it. But yeah, it has some really cool applications. Like I kind of mentioned, like there's some like TikTok is a big thing now for like Book Talk, and authors doing like TikTok live and selling their books live on TikTok. You could easily do like a live stream and give away signed ebooks in that live stream as well. We have a way for you to give readers a link to request a signed copy. So while you're live streaming, readers could submit their email address. You can be signing ebooks, growing your mailing list at the same time. So for folks who are like, they're not ready to necessarily buy your physical books, but they want to check something out, that's another option. I know Kevin J. Anderson actually is going to be using that feature for his latest Kickstarter, which actually launched today.
Or I have one of his books too.
Yeah, the latest in his Dan Shamble like zombie PI series, which is
Gotcha.
really creative. But that Kickstarter launched today, and he's going to be delivering some signed ebooks in that. So, yeah.
Well, hey, look, you gave somebody an idea. Her Kickstarter just wrapped up. She fully funded, so
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our Kickstarter authors have adopted the feature probably the fastest out of anybody, because it was such low hanging fruit, and they're used to, if they use Kickstarter a lot in their business, they're used to that sort of thing. Like, how can I add value here and there? How can I add a little perk? Kickstarter is great for that. So
nice. All right. So the question I was going to have is, which came first, Jack, the BookFunnel lead support guy, or Jack, the author?
My origin story, eh?
Yes.
This is actually they're kind of tied up together.
Okay.
So actually, the author came first. I've been writing, even like I was a little kid. I would draw pictures, like even when I was like 3 years old, before I could write, and then I would dictate a story to like my aunt or my parents. Did it all. I did it all the time to them, so they didn't have the patience for it. It would have to be some other family member that I could like be like, okay, and I would have them, write down the story that I was telling. But I officially like kind of started writing in high school, probably 14, 15 years old. Started writing my first book. I worked on that for years. Lost it, the first version of it in a hard drive crash, chose to rewrite it in college, that sort of thing. Like, typical first book syndrome, where it's like all of these interests I have fused together and doesn't fit neatly into one given genre, that sort of thing. Discovered self-publishing through my former brother-in-law. Which is kind of a funny phrase to say, but thanks, Scott, if you ever see this. I haven't talked in a while, but I appreciate it. He introduced me to a guy named Joe Conrath, who at the time was talking, this would have been 2009, 2010, talking about this kind of revolution in publishing, where you could just make the book yourself and you could publish it on Amazon, right, as an ebook, and you didn't have to, you could just forego this whole process of traditional publishing and take the reins yourself, basically. And I'm like, it resonated with me a lot, because I had been looking into traditional publishing and it was daunting. And so I drank that Kool-Aid. I just took the pitcher and I just chugged it. And I was like, yeah, let's do this thing. And so one of the big things you've got to do if you're going into indie publishing, back then and even now, is you still have to take it serious. You're taking on the role of the publisher. And so one of the things you do is you got to find an editor. And being as it was my first book, I prioritized finding a literary editor because I knew I needed to work on story and crafting, that sort of thing, like typos and grammar. That wasn't really, even then, I didn't have much of a problem with that. And so I found an editor. His name is Harry. He's a Englishman who lives in, or at least at the time, lived in France, and started working with him on my first book. And he's like, "Hey, there's this guy, this other author. He's a first-time author as well, and you should talk to him. You guys are kind of in the same boat. His name is Damon." And so he got us together. We started talking again. We were again in the sort of the same situation. We talked for a couple years. I published my first book in 2012, published another one in 2014. Had some life stuff happen
It does.
in the middle there. Had my first kid and got divorced and other stuff, and kind of distracted me. But came back to self-publishing and reached out to him because we had been working on some projects together, and he was like, "Yeah, sure. In the meantime, I made this company called BookFunnel. Do you need a job?" And so
Twist.
I know. And so it's like, okay, sure. And I started in reader support, kind of cut my teeth in reader support, I like to say. Reader support is, again, helping readers basically like getting their files to their device and that sort of thing, and all that stuff. And then I eventually entered into author support. They moved me up to author support because they were like, we need an author in this role. Previously, other members of the team who were not authors had been doing it, and they did a fine job.
I get it.
But it was just they didn't have that understanding of an author when it came to those things, and so I stepped into that role, and the rest is history. So yeah, they're kind of intertwined with each other, believe it or not, because of that connection with Damon.
I think as an author, though, it's be kind of cool to be in reader support because, I mean, obviously some of it's going to be technical, but some of it you've also got to be saying is like, okay, this is what readers are looking for.
Yeah, it is. It is mostly technical, and so
Right.
the way I like to describe it, the difference between reader support and author support is that in reader support, I liken it to law enforcement, because in reader support, you are, the patrol cop. You're out there pulling people over, giving people tickets, you know, parking tickets, this, that, or the other. Occasionally, there's this thing that goes down at this one house down the corner, but that's neither here nor there. That you're basically doing the day in, day out sort of work,
Right.
right? And it's a lot of the same stuff that you're seeing over and over and over again, right? Whereas in author support, you're more like a detective, right? And you're having to solve some kind of mystery for the most part. We have an author who's like, this, I'm uploading this file and it won't work, and BookFunnel's rejecting it, and then we have to go and look at the metadata and find out, okay, what software did you use to make this? Oh, you use Google Docs. Well, that's why. Don't use Google Docs. Do this instead. And so we've got to dig into things a little differently. But yeah, being an author, if anything, it was kind of, there was something about it that was a little hard, because we deliver a lot of sales for authors. And in fact, the majority of our support comes from two places, which is authors who are delivering ARC copies to a large number of readers, or authors who are delivering a large number of sales, typically through their Shopify store. And so you'd see like, oh, this person, bought this bundle of 12 books from this author and they need help getting it to their device. That could be me. Why? Like, so like, why am I not doing that? It was also a little inspirational in that sense too, getting to see some of those authors, at the forefront of direct sales. When I came around and joined the BookFunnel team, direct sales, like, it used to be that just talking about self-publishing made you a laughing stock, right? People would like, oh, you've got a bunch of books in your garage and you're going door to door. And like, you'd be the like, you told somebody you were
Come see my
self-publishing.
trunk.
Yeah, they would, exactly. And then self-publishing kind of became legitimized, and you'd tell somebody, oh, I wrote a book. And then you'd be like, yeah, I self-published it. Oh, that's cool. so it's kind of been normalized, but now it's the direct sales thing. Like, oh, I wrote a book, I'm self-published, and I'm selling it through my own Shopify store, and people are they're to this day even kind of chuckle a little bit. But these authors were at the cutting edge of this whole thing while I was in reader support, and getting to see them do that, and just because that's kind of the path that I've taken now. I'm going down the Shopify route. It's not easy, but if once you figure it out, it's like getting a plane into the air, right? But once you get that plane into the air, you're soaring, and I just got to get into the air. But
Perfect. Kai had one more question. She's wondering about the book signing. Does that have an audiobook? Can they do that too?
So this is a good question.
You said it better than I tried to say it.
No, you're right. We do have plans to implement a feature like that for audiobooks, but not yet. So the idea is that in the future you would actually be able to add an audio clip, to the beginning of an audiobook, which is a custom message as the author yourself. That's in the works, but we don't have that feature available just yet, unfortunately. So
Gotcha.
Just the ebooks for now.
But it might be someday. Yeah. And apparently Dennis knows the feeling on that. Another author, boxes of books in his office.
Well, now it's normal. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. I have a storage unit with boxes of books in it personally.
Yeah. So all right. So trying to think if there's any questions. Let me do this open-ended one. Is there a question that you expected or just something you want to talk about while you have the floor?
Man, like if we're talking to authors, one of the biggest things I usually like, one of my big soapboxes that has to do with BookFunnel, but also is just as an author myself, is the topic of reader magnets. So a reader magnet, for those in the audience who don't know, is like, it's a free book that an author gives away to grow their mailing list, that sort of thing. For most authors, this is kind of an afterthought. I remember I was 9 books into my space opera series when finally realized I need to write that reader magnet here at some point, right?
Gotcha.
And that was, really should have done that in the beginning. Obviously, BookFunnel can help you deliver all that stuff, but I actually encourage authors to have more than one, to use kind of a collection of them, bonus chapters, have a prequel, right? Like have even like hidden little. I did this recently for one of my recent releases. There's like the reader magnet, and at the end of that is a bonus chapter, and at the end of that is a hidden bonus author commentary. Oh, and nice. I don't promote that anywhere. Like, the only way you get it is by going through those steps, and that way I know that if I see you on my mailing list and you have that little tag on there, I know that you dug all the way to the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So lots of different uses for that. But yeah, no, I could talk about BookFunnel till the cows come home. So and it's self-publishing as well. So there's probably a million questions floating around in my brain, to be quite honest with you.
Gotcha. Ones I see every day, all day. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We've been going on for about 50 minutes now. I'm going to give everybody a minute or two, see if anybody else has any other questions.
Sure.
Looks like we've got mainly authors and aspiring authors there, but that's kind of what I was aiming this one for. It's kind of how I marketed it. Obviously, I do author interviews all the time, but I also wanted to start doing some stuff because I know a lot of new authors or people that want to be authors, and it's like, talk to some people, agents, publicists, publishers, that type of thing, and kind of give them that whole, it's like, you know what, I do this job and I wish you knew this.
Yeah. No, I was recently, on that note, you mentioned agents and publicists. I recently had the opportunity to go to the San Francisco Writers Conference.
Oh, okay.
For BookFunnel, represented BookFunnel there. We also, every year, we go to Author Nation, which is in Las Vegas in November. It's a weird time to be in Vegas, but I mean, being in Vegas is always weird. So you know, six, one half dozen or the other.
Yeah,
But Author Nation is a very
I've
different
seen some
atmosphere.
things in Vegas.
Author Nation is a very different atmosphere. It's very indie. It's a very indie focused conference. We have our booth there, and literally everybody walking up to us is like, "I use you guys. I love you guys. You guys are awesome." And we're handing out stickers, and I like to say, don't mean to be too crass here, but we're kind of like the hot girl at the bar, right? Everybody wants to come up and talk to us, and that's what it's like being at Author Nation or in that indie kind of style of conference.
Mhm.
We're well known, and in San Francisco, it was the exact opposite. It was really trad focused. A lot of aspiring authors there were like they were focused on going the trad route. They were there to talk to agents, and
Yeah.
we were there to talk to them about building a mailing list. And that was they hadn't really considered that before. And so, whether you decide to go the trad route, indie, or honestly hybrid, you can get a sticker. You can get a sticker. You just got to come to a conference that we're at. We have plenty of them. But whichever route you go, like hybrid is also an option. I know a lot of authors don't consider this, but you can absolutely go hybrid and do a little bit of both. And BookFunnel can be there to help you out either way. You have to, at some point, you're going to kind of cross a line where if you've queried and you've sent your book off to agents or you've gotten an agent, then okay, you're in a position where you're making some progress there. Keep on keeping on. I don't try to change people's minds necessarily one way or the other, whether they want to do indie or trad or what have you. I just like people to know like what all the possibilities are, and if one doesn't work out for you, the other one is still there. So.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned that just because I hadn't really talked to too many people about it. And then I had Noelle W. Eiley on last night for a live stream. And
Mhm.
she mentioned that she's hybrid. She's done some indies and she's also got some that are in
Yeah.
contract. So
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's more than one way to do it.
all right. So do you guys tend to do, I mean, obviously almost all of us these days, not everybody, but most of us have like the whole work from home thing.
Yeah.
But are you, don't give me your address, I'm not stalking you, but I think BookFunnel's based in Texas. Are you guys all down there or are you maybe somewhere?
No.
Okay.
Most of us are. Obviously, Damon, our founder, is from Texas, and so obviously the HQ is in the Houston area. I'll give you the address here in a minute, and no, I'm kidding. And some of the
I think that's
first,
online. So
I believe it is, if you really do look for it. But
yeah, I'm not.
it was kind of funny. We also, I hope Damon might be mad at me for this, but at one point in time, his phone number was floating around on the internet
I hate it when that
tied to
happens.
BookFunnel, and so we'd get like it was usually like old ladies who were trying to get their romance books, and they were calling him on his phone, and we got that fixed. There's a different number there now, just in case somebody finds it. But so you can't find that anymore. But it was kind of funny.
And
But
Damien getting your number.
but no, I'm personally I'm in Iowa. We
Okay.
have the author support team is kind of spread out. We have another team member in Georgia and one in Nevada. Our dev team is kind of spread out a little bit as well. We have one team member in New Jersey, another one. He was in Texas, and then he decided to move. I believe he moved to Virginia. So we're a little spread out all over the place. And that's the beauty of being remote, is
Gotcha.
that we don't all have to be in the same place. But
I'm in Nebraska, so you were right next door.
hey,
Yeah,
that's
so
not bad.
hanging out in Omaha,
Hey, Omaha's.
which the rest of Nebraska would say is not really Nebraska, but that's
I'm
besides
in.
the point.
Yeah, I'm in Des Moines.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah.
so I like to tell people that there's a lot you can do in Des Moines. A lot of people think like, oh, you're in Des Moines, Iowa, that must suck. You can't really do much. It's kind of it's the middle of nowhere, especially folks from either coast or even in
Well,
in Texas, like my Texan co-workers are like, oh, Iowa must suck. There's not much to do. Well, there's tons to do in Iowa, and people don't know this. Like, you can go. There's places to go. You can go to Omaha. You can go to Minneapolis. You can go to Kansas City. You could go to Chicago if you want to take a long. Like you can do so much in Des Moines, and right there's so many places. If you're willing to drive a few hours, there's actually a lot you can do.
We've driven through Des Moines plenty of times on the way to visit Minnesota. So yeah,
exactly.
My wife's from Minnesota, so
right. Oh man, no, I know there was a. I was trying to think. There was a some kind of con that I was going to have a booth at as an author. I don't know if it was in Sioux City or was in that that kind of western side of Iowa. That'd be more in your neck of the woods, but I can't. I have to look at my calendar since I told you before we went live that I moved recently.
Yes,
and I have to re-download all my memories pretty much from. It was a 2-month long ordeal that was not a lot of fun. So
nobody likes moving. All right. I was going to ask you one more thing. I can't remember what. Oh, I was going to ask you just since I had you on here. Any chances you're going to go into ReaderCon? I know you're an author. You're going to be at ReaderCon this year.
Where is it?
It's just outside of Boston.
That might be tricky for me. What are the dates?
You know what? Hang on.
That
I can only afford one con a year. That's the one I'm going to this year. So, ReaderCon, I've got down.
There's tons of them.
I'm taking off July 9th through the 12th. So
okay, gotcha. Yeah, my July, I might be able to swing. We'll see.
I went to my first one last year, which was WorldCon. So
okay,
great. I didn't want to do it 2 years in a row. So
yeah, so I'm kind of dipping my toes into it, and that's why I signed up for a few cons that are here in Iowa. That again, I have to look on my calendar. I have it written down somewhere. Right, the move has taken up all of my mental, my brain power recently. And then the plan was potentially in November to do Reader Nation in Vegas, which is the last day of the Author Nation conference. But I was going to do ones local this year, and then next year I was going to try to branch out and do some more stuff outside of the state, potentially travel a little bit. I know BookFunnel, though, we have been going to some reader events as well, and that might be. I don't know if our team has looked at that one, but I'm going to share that with one of them.
I've heard great things about it. If you don't want to go one of the super big cons like WorldCon or WonderCon or one of the best ones for being a little bit smaller and a little bit more personable, but also still gets a ton of big authors at it.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool.
I know Scott Lynch and Elizabeth Bear are going to be there this year. I think Matt Krepel goes every year. So
yeah. To be honest with you, I might wind up kind of just staying in local this year. I'm still getting my feet wet.
That is allowed.
Well, no, I've done a couple of these events at the local mall, and it's actually helped. You get used to talking to people about your book, and it's very energizing, very motivating. But I know it's definitely, I'm kind of fishing in a small pond, so to speak. There's definitely more out there. So I plan to kind of work my way up to some of those bigger ones as I get comfortable with it. But I will look at that.
But maybe you'll end up being the big fish in the small pond.
I could that too. I kind of love it. I actually love the idea of being kind of like a local micro celebrity, like, oh, that's the sci-fi author that's always at the mall kind of thing. I think that would be cool if I could make that work.
All right. So nobody seemed to have any questions. So I'm going to just wrap it up with this.
Yeah.
And I know I had you on as author support in case, authors had questions.
Yeah.
But you're not the marketing guy. But if somebody was wondering about whether to use BookFunnel or not, taking yourself out of tech support for a second, what do you think you would tell them as somebody who also uses it,
Yeah. In terms of like what, for
kind
marketing,
of like, should I use this? Just kind of like, what would you tell them?
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I would say yes, right?
Yeah.
The number one thing that you need as an author, whether you're indie, you're trad, you're hybrid, whatever the case might be, whatever genre you write in, whatever, pick anything that makes you distinct from another author. You need an audience. And the best way for you to have an audience and maintain an audience over the long term is not a social media profile. It's not advertising, it's a mailing list, right? And it's to have a mailing list that you own and you have control of. And BookFunnel is the best tool you have as an author to build that. So there's lots of other things that you can do with BookFunnel, but from like a foundational perspective of like building a mailing list of readers, and then when you have a new release, guess who you can go tell, right? Is that list of readers, those fans. If you have you do need more reviews on your latest book that's coming out, you have readers there to pull from. BookFunnel can help you do that. And so from that perspective, I think it's kind of an invaluable tool. Obviously there's going to be some fancy things going on all the time. Book Talk is the new thing, and
Of course.
there's you can do that, and you can do BookFunnel along with it. I even am experimenting with some ways to use BookFunnel and TikTok together currently. So I'm it's like research. I'm kind of in the lab focusing on that. Nothing to share now, but you can always find a way to make BookFunnel work for you in whatever else you're doing. But it's kind of like a foundation for your author business. Because TikTok, not I know that the conversation around TikTok sometimes gets political. I'm not going to go into the political side of things,
Right.
but obviously TikTok itself has changed hands. Have been questions about is the algorithm going to change? What is this organic discovery platform overnight just going to become like another Facebook where you're going to have to pay to play, that sort of thing? That's probably in TikTok's future at some point in time. And so if you you wait, or TikTok might be paying the bills right now, but it's not necessarily going to be paying the bills forever. Things will change.
Oh yeah.
But a mailing list is like a tried and true thing that like even the traditional publishers do, right? It's the most direct way to reach out to your readers. And so for that reason, I think you need BookFunnel.
And whether things change hands or not, every algorithm changes every few years anyhow,
Yep.
because people are looking for different stuff.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Well, I just want to thank you for your time. Appreciate you hopping on tonight.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody who hopped into the chat and said hi or had questions. Hopefully you guys found this informational, and we'll see what we can do again next time. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, Jack, thanks for hopping on. And
Thank you.
We're enjoying the things that you've got going. And again, this is not advertised. I'm not getting paid for this, but for $30 for a year to try out the stuff that it offers, if I were writing a book, I would definitely be on there.
Yep.
That's just me.
I'm not
writing a book. Nobody cares.
You said it better than I could. So, yep, exactly.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me.